You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Hour 3 at Force 13 HQ of the latest on Cyclone Gelena, which is continuing towards the Mascarene Islands. 409 miles from Mauritius at this hour. 7 AM in Mauritius. Good morning. It's February the 8th, Friday, the day of the storm, quite possibly. It's supposed to be arriving this evening. My name's Nathan Foy. I'm here in the studio once again for another hour with the Force 13 team, consisting in this hour of Strat, David, Tim, and Thomas. Good evening.
Thomas tapped out actually just
and
a
morning.
second ago.
Good afternoon.
I've still got him here.
Oh no, it's Max. It's Max. I'm sorry.
Max is lost. Okay. David, welcome back.
Yes, good to be here.
Thank you. It is good to be here, we think.
Yeah, great to be here.
Another hour of taking your questions and comments live, which is what we do best. We love it. The engagement, you know, it's something that we pride ourselves on. Because, you know, a news organisation won't do that. Not really. But we will.
The way we're able to live stream is more personal, and that's something I think we appreciate.
We'll talk about anything within reason, whilst we try and stay on the subject as hard as we can. Okay, let's take a look at the latest imagery from Thomas's screen. Do you want to give us a little commentary on that?
Sure. So you can see the two storms accordingly here and their latest frames as well accordingly. You can see a convective burst in Gelena over the last frame there. And that convective burst is indicative that there could be some rapid intensification from the storm here soon. It looks like the eye wall is really starting to get itself together, and that intensification that, for example, the Joint Typhoon Warning Center has been expecting with winds up to 150 miles an hour might begin to occur here as the storm is finally getting its act together, and really looks like it's going to probably have a well-defined eye here within the next few hours or so. You can also
Oh wow, that latest frame looks really good, actually.
Let's have another look at that.
Southeast side still looks a bit weak, but it looks like it's really trying to finally close off. It's got, I think, about negative 60s around the whole thing now.
Yes, it's true.
Have you still got RAM imagery up there?
I do have RAM imagery. This is RAM.
Yeah, I think we have the real Earth up right now.
I have real Earth and RAM here. So now I just switched to RAM.
No new images on that one then.
And just another quick update. A viewer commented saying for their it's the sun's out there and it's clear sky on the central plateau out of Mauritius right now.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, you look at it on the satellite imagery there. There is some cloud quite a bit to the north still, by about maybe 40 or 50 miles.
One of the viewers sent that in. You could see some of those clouds off.
Hold on a minute. Sent what in?
That sent it in. Earlier in the last hour, one of the viewers, Cliff, sent a couple images. And
that we're talking about those ones. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, Nathan, I hate to break in, but the Jtwc has just released their 3Z advisory. They currently have Tropical Cyclone Gelena at 13.9 degrees south, 54.1 degrees east, currently having it moving at 155 degrees at 9 knots. Current wind speed, according to Jtwc, is 80 knots, gusting to 100.
We've just got the graphics here as well now.
Excellent.
No, that's the wrong picture. Graphic here. This is Funani's track forecast. They're still expecting a peak of 140 miles per hour. Oh, could happen.
what do we say our current wind strength is right now, based on the latest imagery? Just because I want.
They still haven't updated the Gelena image just yet. What was that, Strat?
I was wondering, what is our current strength on Gelena? Just because I want to recalculate with some new data.
JTWC had it at 80 knots, but...
Which I think is a bit low. We're giving it 100 miles per hour.
So 85 still.
Knots, yes.
Same as 2 hours ago?
Yes.
Alright, so let me just recalculate the wind field a little bit.
If it'll help you out...
New image is out from the JTWC, and there it is, and they are still expecting 150 miles per hour. Has the track shifted south just a wee bit more? Quite possibly, maybe ever so slightly further south on that track forecast.
If it'll help you out, Strat, on the CDPS calculations, JTWC has the hurricane force winds extending out 20 to 30 nautical miles.
Yeah, I found it. Yeah,
Alright, good deal.
I was just looking to see if their intensity was going to be any different, but I did update the winds. I'm seeing if there's anything different for the rain that we can take a look at.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a fair bit of evidence to argue that it does look like Gelena here is rapidly intensifying. I think that can almost clearly be said. The eye in the latest frame of the random imagery here looks almost very well defined at this point. You can definitely see it. It's not the most rounded eye ever. It's pretty rigid, but it is well defined. You can definitely see it now. And I think there is quite a bit of evidence to argue this storm is rapidly intensifying. And I think it wouldn't be out of the question to say this storm's at 110 to 115 miles an hour.
I've just seen... I'm sorry. I've just seen what that person sent to Strat in the last hour. That is not too bad. That's great, actually. Dude. I commend that person. Yep, commend them. I know, yeah, it's a little bit insulting, but...
Alright, so new CD...
just the picture just makes me laugh. I'm sorry. Do continue.
The CDPS calculation still stage 4, but up a little bit more. What happened with our thing is that they actually made the southwest tropical storm force winds radius a bit smaller, but they did increase the hurricane force wind size and tropical storm force wind side of the northwestern quadrant. So we're up from higher 22s on points to lower 23s. If we were to say the storm with 100 knots, or Category 3, that would jump the storm up to a Stage 5 on the CDPS scale, though.
Would we give a Category 3 status? I think there is reason to argue that, but I'd still give it 110 myself.
Let me see what happened if I gave it 95 knots as well. Let me just check this. It might still be a Stage 5 that way. It would not be a Stage 5 if it was only 95 knots.
Either way, extensive damage is possible from the storm, whether it's a Stage 4 or a Stage 5.
Very much
extensive damage is expected.
See. And we just want to let you guys know, any questions, feel free to put them in the chat in Facebook or YouTube. I'm going to be looking around for all of them.
For some reason, I can't get them onto a screen, so I'm going to use my webcam for these images that have been sent in by Alihar Devanand. I'm sorry if I got your name wrong.
I can pull them up myself if they are.
But this is one particular image this morning from their location. Another beautiful picture of the fantastic weather that appears to be going on there, and that's the other image, the sun rising in the sky now. Quite a good angle on it by this point. And again, a lot of what looks like cirrus there, a few distant lower clouds, but a very fine day in Mauritius this morning, in between these two terrors.
Yeah, mainland Mauritius has really been threading the needle this year so far.
Yes.
But I mean, to be fair though, it is basically a needle in a haystack to hit. At least in terms of the size of the Indian Ocean. Rodrigues is an even smaller needle though, and it looks like
they are. You know, in the grand scheme of things, they are pretty large. It's not like Bermuda.
Well, Rodrigues,
they're quite sizable islands.
Well, read my mind there, Nathan.
Rodrigues
that was actually what I was going to compare the chances of Rodrigues or Mauritius getting hit would be a storm hitting Bermuda in the North Atlantic.
Wow.
The last time we got
Which
close to that was
storms have
Nicole.
done, by the way.
Yes, they have.
Nicole
and
got very
Emily.
close, 2016.
Nicole pretty much did it. Emily did it 1987.
And to answer a question you asked during the first hour of coverage, Strat, island of Rodriguez has 38,000 inhabitants on the island.
Okay. And Mauritius itself as a whole country has a population, I think, of 1.2 million about.
Just about, yes. Between Mauritius and Reunion.
Vast majority are going to be on the mainland, though.
Yep.
Do we have...
David, anything for us right now? A long pause? Okay.
I don't know if he's heard yet, but just for him to know, 96P is officially back on the map by the JTWC, David. It's yellow right now, not expected to develop, but they do have it on the map. Out in the Coral Sea as well. It is on the Coral Sea, like we were saying in the first hour.
It is. It must be. It's gotta be.
It is! And then let's see, what did they do with Funani's?
Thomas, are there any new frames on that?
There's one or two. They don't look noticeably different from their previous frames, but they definitely show a little bit more convection on the northern side there, and I think we could see reason to upgrade the intensity a little bit.
Oh, I'm not sure. You look at the latest images there. I don't think we're getting the full loop properly on our thing here. But those recent frames, southeastern side, still doesn't look very good. Let's bring it up on my screen here. Oh no. Can we get it better on yours there?
It's really trying to close off. I think
going a bit slow. I just want to show what's on my screen right now. You can see again what we're expecting here, and you can just see southeastern side not looking great. For all that convection on the northwestern side right now, still got a little work to do to get to Cat 3, but I think it should be a solid 105, maybe even 110 miles per hour.
I mean, the very interesting thing again is the fact that the microwave imagery that's probably about 6 hours old now shows the southeast side being very closed off and the northwest side being much more exposed. Although looking at the satellite loop, that is pretty logical based on what we were seeing at the time.
Yeah, if you've got any comments or questions for us in this hour, or any more pictures, we're happy to take them. As we continue to be with you during this morning, I think we're going to finish our stream at the end of this hour, and then we're going to, I don't know, someone might take over during the daylight hours, but by evening time in Mauritius, we will be back. And
are you going to be running an unattended stream tonight? Just leaving the information out on the screen.
Well, I think it's going to go out of date quite quickly. We're just going to go away and get ourselves ready for this evening, because we know it's going to be a pretty long evening over in Mauritius, and we'll do a lot more of this. So, what time shall we call it for coming back tonight? I think we'll say about 7 PM Mauritius time.
What time is that UTC? Just for some other international viewers to get a grasp on
3 PM UTC. We'll probably come back after we finish up tonight.
10 AM Eastern. For all the
10 AM Eastern.
So that's going to be about 11 hours from when we go offline. And at that point, a lot more people from Mauritius will probably be awake and more alert about this.
Well, you know, I imagine that... I don't know what... Could someone please tell us what is going on in Mauritius? I'm guessing they're still having a normal work day today? Or are people staying home to prepare for this? We need to know.
So, I heard... I think I saw someone on the Facebook comment saying cancel Monday. Or something like that.
Now, is that until Monday?
Don't quote me on that, though. Let's see. I think we just got a new image though. Viewer just, I think, sent in a new image. Yeah. Casey Knoll Elephant sent a new image. So let me see if I can go grab this. It's another great looking image from the west coast of Mauritius.
Normal workday, they're saying. Yeah, normal workday.
I mean, it's absolutely stunning.
I mean,
out
you
there,
know, but I don't know. I mean, there's not going to be very much time for people who have got a full-time job to prepare for this, because they've only just issued Class 1 warnings this morning. So people who are not aware of what's going on around them have only just found out about this storm this morning. And now there's a work day, and the storm comes at about, well, during the night tonight, really. Because you can't prepare your building overnight. So there's not very much daylight available.
My hope in general is that a lot of people there already have prep kits ready to go, though, because they know they're in the line of fire potentially often. So
I don't know.
Open that. Here's an image sent in from a viewer from the west coast.
Okay.
Beautiful, absolutely stunning with the palm trees and everything. The same person said that work is carrying on as usual on the island right now.
I just find it amazing how we can get pictures from different parts of the island in near real time. It's great. We're building a great network here.
Yeah, Mauritius is a very unique place in the fact that, comparatively percentage-wise, they're our largest viewing base compared to the percentage of the population.
Well, that's because they get storms.
What is it, like 30% at least of the population of Mauritius has watched one of our videos at this point or something like that? That's pretty crazy.
Maybe. We don't know that for sure.
At least raw numbers, so we're not counting views per person.
Yeah, I don't think now's the best time to go on talking about our viewing figures, because it will make us look a bit... Well, Strat is always looking like...
But it's a good time to say we appreciate their support.
We do. Just to remind everyone, Thomas is showing us the latest Jtwc chart.
Oh, yes. This is... No, it's back. But yeah, this is the Jtwc chart for Gelena here. This is what it looks like right now. So that's still what it really was before, if I'm not mistaken. The 130 knot peak is still expected. Mauritius within the Jtwc's cone for 34 knot wind danger. So that's tropical storm force or gale force winds. I have noticed that model tendency has gradually moved farther and farther southward with this storm. Now, the thing is that we don't know how far in the trend it is. That southward trend could over-exaggerate itself a little bit, and it readjusts itself. The beginning of a southward trend, I think that a more direct impact on Mauritius with those tropical storm force winds more and more likely as the storm does approach. Either way, are 30 or 40 miles an hour. That's really not going to be the main threat with the storm, as rain and waves are going to be the main threat, unless it does get within, you do get hurricane force conditions, which chances of that are next to none at the moment.
So there we go.
Who's joined us?
Who else is going to speak now? I don't know. I'll throw it out to the floor.
Do you want to go through the models?
Yeah, sure.
Situation?
People like watching the models, and so do I.
Exactly.
Here's a GFS on some.
I mean, it's almost a clear set now that it's the center of the storm's probably going to end up around 100.
I think we do like looking at the different scenarios, though, if you wanted to do that, Strat.
Yeah, I could pull up tropical tidbits to get some runs going, although I can also show an ensemble right now of, it's unfortunately only shows 3 models at the moment, I think, here, 4, if my computer wouldn't, just be
shows
slow.
2.
It shows 2? No, this one shows 3. The Jtwc is actually the furthest north out of these.
Out of what? Hold on, out of what?
Out of the NavGem, HWRF, and Jtwc track.
That's not much of a choice
but
there.
But the best is actually further south than all of them. The black dot.
At the minute, yeah, the the recent track has been south of forecast.
So let's see if I can pull up a broader swath image. My computer would decide not to be slow, probably because I haven't restarted it in like 2 months at this point.
How?
I just leave it on sleep all the time when I'm away from home. You know, I just turn off the monitor and just leave it like that. Although it's probably massively inhibiting at this point. But let's take a closer look at the HWRF model outlook. We'll actually zoom in as well. You can on the storm. Here it is. This is 6 hours out. The HWRF is a bit slow on its initialization for intensity. It starts it out as 88 knots at 18C, so that's actually about right.
Yeah, that's right.
But in 24 hours, it takes it from 88 knots to 133 knots.
That's massive intensification right there.
Brings it up to a Category 4, almost Category 5. It peaks it at 134 knots at 38 hours out. At 27 hours out, it looks like as it gets close to Mauritius Bay, you can see it pop up on the bottom of the screen there. Tropical storm force winds staying away from the island by probably about 100 miles or so. But definitely gusty winds and rough surf and such. And then we're gonna look Rodrigues pop in here. It actually forces it to thread the needle, barely giving tropical storm force sustained winds to Rodrigues as a still a powerful system.
Wow.
Although the
that's another Salida then.
Yeah, I feel like what the HWR is doing though, once it gets to this kind of latitude, it starts distorting the look of the storm in a really weird way. Like if I were to go to like the simulated satellite imagery, you'd be able to understand that better. You know, shows it as this massive
explosion in its aerial coverage.
And then look at this. It turns it into a blob like this. So I don't know how much we can trust the wind field span just because it collapses it like this into a weird mess.
Needs a bit of work, that model.
I feel like at this latitude in the southern hemisphere, yeah. But what about the GFS? Here's the GFS. The good old reliable. Starts it off at about the same intensity. 24 hours. It doesn't actually get it to major hurricane status, so the intensities are lagging a bit behind. But you'll see Mauritius there misses out by just a little bit. And this one brings tropical storm force winds to actually hurricane force winds to parts of Rodrigues. Yes, actually, not by a huge margin, but it does by a bit. You'll see it's right here. It takes it a bit more easterly shift the last second to deliver stronger winds there before carrying it out, eventually dissolving into a tropical system. I want to see, do we have any other model runs for this? I'm actually going to shift to the South Indian as a whole so I can actually show the European model, just because it's weird. Here's Funani down here bottom right. Here's Gelena. This is about 12 hours old at this point, so this is going to be a bit dated. But you'll see where's Rodrigues? It's going to be right around here-ish or something like that.
19 south, 63 east.
19 south, 63. Yeah, so it's this thing right here. It's this little speck. The Euro actually almost threads the needle, but it looks like what the models are hinting as once it gets towards the latitude of Rodrigues, it's going to take a more easterly turn. If we have a forecast map, I want to see what the JTWC one is. It doesn't really show that compared to the other ones.
But I have been looking at that for a while. You can see that curve back towards a more northerly direction, only at the end of that track forecast there.
Only at the end of this one, but a lot of
obviously the ECMWF is calling for that to happen much sooner.
The GFS was too, actually. If I take a look here, we'll take a look at the same thing, just in a different way. You'll see here it is, but it does force that eastward jog a little bit there, comparatively. From here to here-ish, it moves it further east, and then starts to move back down to the south again before another easterly track, as starts to move around some other systems. So it's going to be something to watch to see whether or not this quick jog to the east a little bit as it gets near Rodrigues before resuming a more southeasterly motion is something that actually pans out. Does the HWF show this, actually? The HWF... Not really. HWF threads the needle.
Goes straight through.
The thing to know in particular is how small this storm is.
It is, yes.
So it has the chance of threading the needle, although what it looks like at the moment is that because of its angle and this potential jog to the east, it looks like it has a high probability of impacting Rodrigues to at least tropical storm force winds at minimum. There isn't really a ton of time left to change the track severely enough to make a decent impact to spare Rodrigues from strong effects at this point.
As you guys were discussing the models, I was trying to see what Mauritian periodicals was carrying coverage on Gelena. The only one that I've seen is Le Mauricien is picking up on it. It's basically echo what we were discussing earlier about the Class 1 warnings and the wave action. The Mauritius Times and Le Express have not picked up on it as of yet, but I would not be surprised going into tomorrow that some of the periodicals in and around that area start picking up on the coverage.
It'll have happened by tomorrow. It's
Yeah,
happening.
that's true.
It's happening tonight. It's moving in quick.
I just noticed something interesting. I was just looking at this. The HWF run actually takes it for a
There it
northward
goes.
turn at the end of
Look
the model
at
run.
that. Alright, we got an early visible image of Funani this morning. This is what it looks like. It's a very dark image, so apologies for that. But that's one of the first images we've got of Funani this morning.
I see this. I have not been able to check in on this stuff either. Covered eye, but...
A covered eye, yes.
It looks good on infrared, at least. At least it was an hour ago. I haven't really gotten a good look at it since then.
We'll try and touch up that image to make it look a little bit better. Easier on the eye. Quite difficult to see it properly. We'll get on to that. In the meantime, does anyone else have anything to show us? Thomas?
Yes. I have the ECMWF actually pulled up, which I know Strat was showing. I have it in a little bit different of a graphical form. You can actually see the rain here at the moment, and I think it's interesting to see what the potential rain impacts could be, because remember, tropical cyclones are not only wind, but they are also a rain threat. So I think that that's definitely something that's important to distinguish. So if I get to rain accumulations over the next 3 days or so, the storm's going to be past Rodrigues by 3 days out. But we can see this is in inches. I can change it to millimeters here. But about maximum rainfall only predicted to be about, and I say only in context to other tropical cyclones, 200 millimeters or so, where the highest rainfall will be. And it looks like Mauritius, the ECMWF, is only expecting to have about 25 to 30 millimeters of rainfall. And it looks like Rodrigues could get up to the 35 millimeter mark on rainfall. That is if the ECMWF is right. If we take a look at the GFS...
That's very little, though.
Yeah, it is. GFS also showing about a 250 millimeter or so maximum with the storm's movement, which is quite interesting as well, because that's not too much for tropical cyclone. It looks as if Rodrigues could get up to 60 millimeters or so according to the GFS, and it looks like Mauritius still only around 20 to 30 millimeters or so. So really not too much rain in accumulations is expected at all.
Interesting. We're just about to get a touched up version of that image that we just showed you a moment ago of the first visible of Funani, and hopefully when I press this button it will appear. There is the early visible image of Funani this morning. That's how it's looking in relation to those islands. Rodrigues well out of its way, and as you can see, a big channel of clear skies to the west of that particular storm, and that of course includes Mauritius. Funani is in between, Mauritius is in between Funani and Gelena right now, and the latter of those is on its way, as we've just seen. As soon as we get a visible image of Gelena, we'll put it up on the screen. David, have you got some news for us?
The International Space Station is heading towards the region, and hopefully later this afternoon or before we finish we might have a bit of a glimpse of Funani. And I'm just reading some of the communication in the chat. If I think I'm right, issue a Class 2 signal. Later today, their time, whilst schools are open, it will be chaos.
Yes, I did see that comment.
And somebody asked if they could have a look at the tracks for Gelena.
Well, we've just been looking at a lot of them in the last few minutes. Of course, if you did miss a lot of our show tonight, we're in our third hour, we're finishing at the end of this hour. They are going to be uploaded in full on YouTube and Facebook, so you can catch our morning show, and we'll be here again in the evening. We're planning to be here at 7 PM Mauritius time tonight. We'll let you know close to the time if that changes. Obviously, the storm could change things too.
And in the meantime, Nathan, Joint Typhoon Warning Centre, is now on board for the Southwestern System 96P that has been stuck on a
Drat him! We said we wouldn't tell him, and he's found out for himself.
Monsoon trough.
Can't hide anything from him in that area.
Over 3.5 metres of water. Broke a 1901 record, and local authorities, so this is developing news, local authorities are now warning of a major mosquito outbreak. The Townsville Council is now undertaking spraying. And Nathan, breaking news out of New Zealand. There's a major bushfire that has seen over 3,000 people evacuated in the town of Walter. And I've got some information. Nelson Wakefield evacuated. Pinchen Valley residents must leave homes as fears wind may fan blaze.
So that's a significant wildfire there in New Zealand.
Yes. And the town of Wakefield was evacuated at 12:50 PM local time, causing 3,000 residents to find other accommodation. At least the main points. The fire is also breaking out in Nelson. I keep on saying.
Oh. Who did that?
That's a strange.
Nelson has whipped out the David soundboard.
Nelson.
Terrible timing.
Yes.
I must go on to something else. At this point, we got to show. We've actually got a first visible image of Cyclone Gelena, so this one's a pretty interesting one. That's the first visible image of the storm this morning. So that is the first image that we've seen, and that massive blow up of convection easily visible on that image, Thomas.
Yeah, it looks almost like an upside down part.
It is literally a comma, look at it.
Yeah, it really is. It almost reminds me of kind of one of those hook echoes you'd see on Doppler radar for a tornado or something. Yeah, I mean, that's just huge convection, a huge convective burst that's going on right now.
Nelson, get on here.
A clear sign. I think it's a very clear sign that rapid intensification could be occurring here very soon. And we can see the convective burst is now really spread to the entire northern side of the storm. And I think it may start to overtake the southern side of the storm here soon.
And just for our users and listeners, the people watching the stream to note, Nathan told me to do that to David before we even started streaming tonight.
All right, prank over.
And viewers, there's more to that, the audio, but come into Force 13, and we'll get Nelson to play all of it.
No, that's not.
It does get entertaining.
We've got 25 minutes for anyone to send in any questions for us. We're here to serve, and we look forward to hearing any questions that you might have for us, and hopefully we can help in some way or other. As it stands, we're just putting out the images of what we just captured, the first satellite images of the day. For those two storms, and a very impressive looking Gelena.
And I think it's a female name. It's got the eye radius is 20 nautical miles. Funani is 10 nautical miles. And I'm hoping to capture the International Space Station flying over both of them. And if the footage is okay, it will become available on the main channel.
Do we have any further questions on Facebook right now, David?
Facebook, where are we?
Oh, he's not there at all.
It's pretty quiet right now on the Facebook
that's
side.
fine.
The free computers, and
You've got too many computers then.
No, the one I'm talking on, I had to delete 14 gigabytes of history, and that slowed my main one down. But I would say a special thank you to those who have viewed this live streaming event on Facebook, and as Nathan said, we will continue to bring the latest information and simulcasting. Well, we've got to get see Nathan do number 2 simulcast, but it's been a fantastic team effort.
All right, I want to point something out here. Looking at the latest imagery now. So the line I drew earlier, the line that pretty much is a forecast track. As you can see, the storm is expected to be at 10 PM and at noon tomorrow. So the storm could deviate anywhere along that line, north or south. At the minute, when you look closely to where the storm is going in relation to that line at the moment, it is beginning to trend south of that line. That's not good news for Mauritius.
No, that is very bad news for Mauritius if this trend does continue. Right now, I wouldn't worry too much about it. The storm could always wobble. But I'd say if this trend does continue over the next few hours, I think people in Mauritius really need to start taking the storm very seriously if you aren't taking it seriously already.
If it continues in the same vein, you can see the lines that I've done there. We could project that maybe on Saturday noon time the storm could be as little as 120 miles from Mauritius. At its closest point of approach early in the morning, that on Saturday it could be 115, which still means that tropical storm force winds won't reach the island, I think. But it's just got a bit closer when you look at that trend. That's of course if it keeps the trend. It could jog east again, and that line will be completely pointless. But that's just what we've been seeing in the last 3 hours whilst we've been on air.
If it holds its current structure, Nathan, at 150 miles away from Mauritius, the tropical storm force winds would still be 70 miles offshore if it were to hold its current radii of all its winds at this time.
The JTWC in their current advisory says Gelena, the satellite imagery depicts curve banding wrapping into a poorly defined low-level circulation and earlier infrared eye field over the past 6 hours. Despite the poor IR presentation, a 36 gigahertz image depicts a well-defined microwave eye surrounded by that cyan ring. So it's gone from 20 down to a microwave eye. It was 20 nautical miles.
Well, that's not necessarily a downgrade, actually.
No, but would it be because it's filling in with the cloud?
The convective burst to the north will surely have an effect on that, yeah.
But they're still saying future rapid intensification. No?
Yeah, it's probably already underway. Yes.
Yeah, I know that the 6 hours, but the subtropical ridge to the east. Tim, what's going on up in the, I think it's a 500 millibar. Have you looked at that and read the steering ridge?
I actually have not looked at that. Let me actually pull that up for the team. Let me see what we're looking at for that.
And Nathan, the advisory is indicating the 96 to 120 hour range forward track speeds expected to slow as the steering ridge recedes.
What was that?
Dynamic guidance is in good agreement that this track motion will continue through the forecast period. However, at the extended
yes, in the long range, yeah, it could slow down.
Yeah, it will slow. We're expected to slow as the steering ridge recedes equatorward, and guidance suggests intensification to the 120, 130 knot range is possible.
At the late stage?
Over the next 36 hours.
Oh, right, okay.
Yes.
Unless 36 hours. I thought you meant the later on part, in 5 days out. Okay, yeah, that all makes sense. That's pretty much what we've been saying, really, in the last hour, summed into a different, in a different manner. Let's see here.
I do have that graphic up that David was asking about.
Just stand by on that just for a quick moment. First of all, just want to flick to Thomas's screen just to look at that latest image there. Thomas, a quick comment?
Yeah, I mean, this is what I've noticed personally. If we go back just a little bit, this was the image we were looking at previously, and we were talking about how that southern chunk of the eye wall was really not looking too great, and how we were going to get the storm around that 105 mile an hour intensity because of it, and that was really preventing the storm from really strengthening. The eye didn't look like it was fully closed off quite yet. But if you take a look at these next couple of frames here, you'll notice that this is really beginning to wrap around, and you can see it's close to closing off and having those minus 70.
And if it does, boom. Off it goes for rapid intensification. Tim, are you still there?
I am. I'm actually looking at Umasat, see if it's coming up with anything similar to what Thomas has, and I actually have the steering currents for that as well. I mean, this is the last few hours off the Umasat where
you've got.
It does look like the eye. Yeah, it does look like the eye is starting to consolidate around on the northern side of the convection, which is what Thomas is showing up on the RMB imagery, and the. Where is it at on my stuff here? Okay, there it is. Yeah, this is what David was asking about earlier. This is something that we had used yesterday, and according to Hank, this is a bit of static and a little subjective. But since we're looking at a 90 knot system right now, give or take, this is what the upper level steering currents would look like for this system. Most of them still pulling it into that south southeast position as we've been discussing. It gets interesting though as it starts to rapidly intensify, especially if it gets up to the 120, 125 knot range that we're looking at. It actually does look like it pulls more of an easterly trend before it actually starts pulling it south onto the hills of Funani. So this is really going to be interesting as to what it does. If it goes that southerly track, like it's been looking at the last couple hours, it could actually go pull almost maybe due east and maybe split Mauritius and Rodrigues, or it could hit one of them like we've been discussing as a possibility.
Well, it's certainly got a lot more interesting now that it is moving a little bit south of what we're expecting. And that will have to be factored in the next model runs.
And considering these are... and even these steering guidances are a little dated. They're from midnight UTC, so the next ones won't come out till about 2.5, 3 hours. So this information will change by then as well.
So there we are.
That's just some of the steering based on the intensities. Even at the 400 millibar, which would put it at the high-end guidance, I mean, it still shows that southeast to southeast trend. But with it pulling further south, I'm not entirely confident with the steering current.
And you can see they all get funneled in there as well, quite strong. And that's probably part of the reason why it's really going to pick up pace in the next 24 hours. And it could be completely away from Mauritius by tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, it just really depends on how far north or south it goes between Mauritius and Rodrigues. That's going to determine whether or not it's going to be a complete miss or if we're going to actually have some substantial impacts.
Yep. Just over 10 minutes if you want to send in any more questions, comments, queries, pictures, or anything you like. We'll be here, and let's just take another look now at the imagery that we've been looking at for quite a while. And again, you can see that massive convective band in the northern side of the storm. The ice starting to come out a little bit more as well. And in some areas there, briefly, rainfall amounts of over 60 millimeters per hour in that northern eye wall. That's quite a lot.
That's quite a lot. That is, it's very high amounts of rain, and amounts of rain that really could become quite dangerous. If we take a look here, and
just a minute. Getting back to your imagery here.
Remember that island that this storm is about to
Tourmaline, yes.
Yeah, well, it looks like they're about to get hit with some of these outer bands. I apologize, I forgot what this island was called. But it's about to, and is really starting to get impacted by the outer bands of this rapidly intensifying storm. And as the southern eye wall does wrap around, as the northern eye wall wraps around the southern part of the eye wall.
Satellite indications show that that island has had about 10 millimeters of rain in the last 2 hours.
Yeah, but still, I think that could go up substantially if a lot of convection, if that convective burst to the north does get to them. So you can see that here accordingly. It's that little blip on your screen. I'll let you put a circle on it.
Barely visible.
Yes, but there it is.
So that is that tiny island there that is probably going to end up being the most impacted by the storm of anywhere. Maybe. Here's hoping.
And there it is. I'm going to put a little bit larger circle around it. So that would be...
Oh, he's such a perfectionist.
So as we zoom back out, see it a little better.
A bit too far there.
Yes, just slightly.
There it is again.
Yes, is the frames to attempt to reload themselves. So that's going to be loading up for a little while.
Oh, we'll bring it back to my imagery for the time being. And again, depicting still south-southeasterly movement at the minute, really, when you look at it. And we're just going to have to keep following where that ends up going. But at the moment, it's a little bit late making that curve. And that could make all the difference for those in the northern part of Mauritius. We won't get a definitive answer on whether we're going to get tropical storm force winds or worse in northern Mauritius until later today. We will have regular postings on social media if anything changes, and we hope to be live again starting about 7 PM tonight. As we switch back to Thomas's imagery there.
Yeah, there it is. It's much better loaded up at this point. Still a frame or two might cut out in between just for a little bit, but you can see the general picture. The Funani's moving out. Gelena's moving in its place. And
David,
yeah, I mean,
I'm sorry, David, did you get any news from the International Space Station?
Sorry, I'm having a little bit of feedback here. I'm just looking at one camera. I've probably got about 2 minutes. So hopefully on the next pass, I'll have both. So I've got about 2 minutes of Funani.
Did you?
I think so.
So it's passed now, has it?
Yes.
Could you possibly screen share that, because we've only got a few minutes left to run here?
Hang on, I'll see what I can.
That would be very nice indeed if we got some visual on that. If you didn't see them earlier, some visible images, early visible images that came out this morning, not very long ago. This was one of the first images of Cyclone Funani. Doesn't look quite as impressive when you look at it on there.
no, what's going near as impressive. I mean, just sheerly looking at that imagery, I'd give it a 90-mile-an-hour intensity.
And first image of the day for Cyclone Gelena. Now, what happened with that audio just then? David, we still got you?
You got me?
We've lost.
I think we lost Thomas. There we go. Coming back.
This is what David captured just moments ago.
And unfortunately, the ISS, they are switching very... they view for about 2 minutes, then they switch cameras, but this, I think it's down here in the bottom left, Nathan, and I think the
International Space Station footage just a few moments ago of what appears to be the edge of Cyclone Funani.
You can see the rain bands, the outer bands. Would I be right to describe?
Looks
it
like
that
it
way?
to me.
And I should, and this is the first one, so the next one I should have both.
And you'll be uploading that when you've got it, right?
As soon as I get it, I'll upload.
Well, what better reason to subscribe to Force 13 than to get to see the next International Space Station pass of these storms, if indeed it does actually capture them. We'll wait and see on that.
True.
And also for any further updates that we're doing on the channel. As I said, we're probably going to be back with you about 7 PM Mauritius time, doing more live coverage. But we're finishing up for the night here. Guys, anything you want to close on?
Well, I'll be keeping an eye on those two systems, and I've got developing scene over to my east, and it's been a very good broadcast and the viewer participation.
Of course.
Yeah, I have some closing thoughts as well.
Yeah, sure. We've got a few minutes here.
And really, the big one being that if you're in Mauritius, if you're in Rodrigues, really just stay safe. Better safe than sorry. Please prepare now for tropical storm conditions and even hurricane force wind gusts.
Yes.
Being a possibility. Just please prepare for that. Again, it's a better safe than sorry kind of situation. You want to take this storm seriously. It's going to be here within the next 24 to 48 hours or so. So it's definitely something that needs to be watched very closely. The outer bands will be knocking on Mauritius's door within the next 18 hours or so, if I'm not mistaken, as the storm is really going to start to ramp up in movement speed. So, yeah, again, there's going to be a live stream this evening on Force 13 for Mauritius, so please stay tuned for that.
All right. Tim?
Pretty much echoing what Thomas has been saying. Definitely be prepared. If you're in Mauritius and Rodrigues, consult your local media outlets. The islands are under Class 1 warnings on Mauritius. I would not be surprised to see these go to Class 2 as Gelena gets closer. If you can't keep an eye on it in Mauritius through your local outlets, you're more than welcome to check out the outlets here at Force 13 on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and on Discord.
That's my line. And Nelson, you're there somewhere. Hiding, he's hiding.
I'm not hiding, I'm here.
Well, it was nice to see you.
Oh, thank you, Nathan. It's been a pleasure being here for the last minute. No, I would like to say to those who are in Mauritius and Rodrigues, be careful.
Rodrigues.
The
sore subject.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Do be careful. Don't go out into the weather. We've asked for pictures. We've asked for, your reports of it. But your safety is more important than those things. However, if you can do it safely, we'd love to see your pictures. We'd love to see how the storm impacted you.
Thank you for that very concise ending statement. Well, that's it from here at Force 13 HQ. We've been here for 3 hours, and I think we've just about told you everything you need to know. Coming up to 8 in the morning in Mauritius. Have a good day. We'll be back again in the evening to track the storm as it moves in for its closest approach. We're thinking 7 PM. We haven't confirmed that yet. But if there are any changes to that, check out our social media pages and follow those. Facebook and Twitter will have the latest updates. Search Force 13 all in text. You can also add my personal account on Skype, Force 13. That's the channel account actually, but also my personal account on Discord. That's what it's supposed to be. Fool 13 at extension 9094. Well, that's everything for now, and the past 3 hours of our stream will be uploaded separately to both of Facebook and YouTube as well for the opportunity to watch back everything that we've been talking about during this session. We'll see you again soon. Have a great day and a great night wherever you are, and we'll see you again soon. This storm is on its way. It's time to prepare. Good night.